If you tell me you've got a desire, I'm all in. Do you want to grow?
Absolutely.
Take notes and make sure it improves your business. Everybody wants to grow. You deserve to grow.
You don't pitch to investors to try your luck. You pitch to investors to win.
If it's not challenging, I don't think it's worth it.
The right advice to give in business is validate the idea first.
Most of you out there who want to grow, your issue is just starting, isn't it?
It's important that people just follow what they want to do.
It's an opportunity of a lifetime for all of us.
The podcast is not about them growing, it's about them helping others grow. Hello and welcome to I Want to Grow, and I Want to Grow is all about that. It's all about making sure that we can all grow as individuals. Now, with our guests though, it's about what they're doing for other people. It's not about their growth. They're interested in their growth, obviously, but they're more interested in helping others grow. So today I have an amazing guest. And Obi, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell you where you come from, if we didn't know already?
Thank you, Steve, for having me. And it's been nice talking to you over the last few months and meeting you as well as your members of staff. So yes, my name is Obiajulu Egbunike, and I am British from the UK, and I came to Qatar about 8 months ago, sometime in August 2023. And before I came here, I actually did some studies of the innovation ecosystem to find out what the Qatari innovation ecosystem is like. Because while in the UK for close to 20 years, that is the work I did in the UK. So I spent close to 20 years across different parts of the UK. So from Wales to Luton and then to London. Well, actually from Birmingham to Wales to Luton and then London. So that's where I come from. Yeah.
Well, how did you, in the very beginning, so how did you get involved in all of this stuff? How did you see this as your way forward?
I mean, initially I started out, I was born and brought up in Nigeria, and I schooled in Nigeria up to my bachelor's in engineering. So when I left school in the early 2000s, I know I still look very good, I know. But when I left school in the early 2000s, I worked for General Electric for 1 year as a medical engineer. I got bored with that quite easily. And from there, I moved on to Ericsson, the telecommunications giant. And that was the point at which the telecoms sector in Nigeria was growing very fast. So I was with them for about 4 years. And that was where I first of all came across innovation and issues around innovation, because I was a product manager. And my job really as a product manager based in Lagos in Nigeria was to be the interface between the African telecommunications sector and the product developers in Europe. So I spent a lot of time in Sweden, the headquarters of Ericsson. I spent some time in Germany. I spent time in Denmark. I spent lots of time in South Africa, Johannesburg, because South Africa was the head office of the African MUSA, as Ericsson called it, Market Unit South Africa. So that was when I first came across issues around innovation. So after spending 4 years with Ericsson, mind you, I had just the first degree. After spending 4 years with Ericsson, I decided, okay, I've spent 4 years here as a product manager. Let me explore this thing a bit more. Let me go abroad. Let me go to Europe to do my MBA. I ended up in England, in Birmingham, where I did my MBA. And once I finished my MBA, I found that experience very interesting, and I decided to explore the theories around management sciences, innovation, entrepreneurship, operations management. So I joined the university as a researcher in 2008, and that is when things really took off. I became a full-fledged innovation professional working with companies and helping them innovate, create new products and services, explore the market, and all issues around innovation. So that's how I ended up within that innovation space.
Was it difficult to understand or get to terms with all of those things?
No, it wasn't very difficult for me, at least, because like I said, based on my background, both professional experiences with the companies I worked for, multinationals, GE and Ericsson, as well as the experience, as well as my education. So experience plus education, it wasn't too difficult for me to keep trying to understand issues around innovation, reinvent myself, and help companies do what they needed to do to prosper. Yeah. Like I said, initially I started looking at issues around innovation with multinationals. But when I joined Cardiff University as a researcher in Wales now, where I spent 8 years, the job specifically was helping innovative startups and SMEs improve their operations by infusing and embedding innovation capabilities within the organization. So, as you would expect, coming from a university, I had to understand I had to understand a lot of theoretical aspects behind that and try and see how I could transform those theories into workable solutions for companies. So it was while I was with Cardiff University, 2008 January, that I specifically started looking at startups and SMEs related to innovation. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And what are the differences, the main differences you've seen over the last, since 2008?
Well, I would say the differences I've seen since 2008 are that the product or the innovation life cycle is becoming shorter and shorter. In 2008, I would say, for example, in 2008, I would say it took quite a while, quite a long time for companies to understand what innovation was and to understand the methodologies they needed to adopt to innovate, to change and embed new processes within the organization to create new products and services. Of course, the clients themselves, they were using products for much longer. But these days, with the shortening innovation and product development life cycles, things are happening much faster now, much faster. Competition is a lot more fierce now, really fierce these days. Talent is, then talent was, I would say talent was around, because there were fewer companies innovating. Now, with lots more companies innovating, with a lot more people going into entrepreneurship, there is a noticeable absence or fight for talent these days.
And looking at those things where talent is getting more and more difficult to find, how do they do that? What are the better ones doing, which helps them stand out, and how to attract that talent?
I would say a lot more companies these days are relying on things like collaborative R&D. Because, for example, it's a bit easier these days to find talent within, academic institutions and research institutions. That's where you have professors, research fellows, research associates, and people like that actually carrying out research, both theoretical and practical, in a lot of these new technology areas. In fact, a lot of these new technologies actually come out of universities. So a lot of companies these days are developing collaborative R&D with universities just to access the talent from those universities. Well, not just talent. We're also looking at resources. So talent, yes, but also equipment, laboratories, workshops, all those things are in universities. So that's one way that companies are accessing talent. Another way is through remote working. So you find out that lots of countries like Asian countries like India, like Pakistan, they have huge information ICT, huge ICT resources that are for hire. So you find out that lots of people are getting others remotely to do some work for them. So people in the West, the US, Europe, Africa, need specialists in artificial intelligence and machine learning that they don't have in their countries and on ground. What do? They get people from India to do all the work for them remotely.
But this is where it helps India become so strong, and Pakistan, because you're giving them direction. You're also doing knowledge sharing. This is where they gain the experience, and this is the advantage they're going to have in the long term.
Yes.
It's when you look at it that way, you think to yourself, it's just pulling into this one direction.
Oh yeah.
We should be doing it in those other countries too. Now, in saying that, with Qatar, so how have you enjoyed Qatar since you've been here?
So far, it's been quite interesting in Qatar. What I can say is that, based on the other countries that I've been privileged to work with or work in, I would say Qatar's innovation ecosystem is still growing, is still at the early stages, in my opinion. Because, based on what I experienced in the UK, in London, based on what I've experienced in India, based on what I've experienced even in Africa, in places like Kenya, in Johannesburg, in Nigeria, those innovation ecosystems are fierce, they are highly competitive, and they are moving at the speed of light. So I would say Qatar seems to want to grow. They are doing the right things, but I would say, yes, they are still at the early stages of their innovation journey. So I would also say they are at an advantage also, because they don't have to make all the mistakes other people made. They can actually learn from others and adopt ready-made frameworks into their system to help them grow.
I think that's going to be a huge thing for the future. Is it that you've just got to be smart and you've just got to be calculated. If you can hold your nerve instead of everything around you being a little bit chaotic in seeing what we're doing, seeing what they're doing, they're focusing on their own game. And it may be a little bit, the process may be a little bit slower, but it's you've got foundations because you're learning every step of the way. And as you said, you learn by others that make mistakes. You don't make those yourself.
No, you don't. One demonstrable example is a few months ago, I actually saw that Qatar has just started what they call a knowledge transfer partnership program that has been, or that is going to be funded by QRDI. When I read through the portfolio of what they want to do, I now realize that, hang on a minute, it's very, very, very similar to what is obtainable in the UK, because the UK also has a knowledge transfer partnership program, which, funny enough, started in 1975. So it's almost a 50-year-old program.
Whoa. Where
the UK has built a nice network around the KTP. So the UK has not just the KTP, they have a knowledge transfer network that goes along with that. Every university in the UK has a knowledge transfer partnership manager specifically dedicated to the KTP. They have presentations. It's a very successful program in the UK. So when I realized, hang on a minute, really? Qatar has adopted this now. And what the KTP does really is that it's a framework whereby universities transfer knowledge to industry. So now Qatar has adopted that program as one of theirs. So that's a good learning opportunity for them, a good way for them to say, okay, what are other countries in the world doing that we can do ourselves and adopt to make our innovation ecosystem better?
QRDI, I cannot believe how much they've come along in the last 5 years, because they were just doing research. They were just doing research at the time, but now they've been unleashed, and boy, are they helping others. It's massive what they're doing.
Oh yeah. It's, when I arrived, like I said, before I came in here, the experience I had around the world and in the UK, I studied the ecosystem in Qatar, and you're right, I actually found out a lot about QRDI and saw what they were doing. And yes, it seems like they are saying the right things. They are doing the right things. And it seems like, yes, they are learning a lot from what other people have done. And I believe that soon, and very soon, they are actually going to do a lot of wonderful things within the ecosystem. I mean, I follow them on all my social media, so
we follow them, and they really are doing such a magnificent job now.
Yeah.
Something's happened, and they've really come alive. And now they're one of the leaders, which is unbelievable. I take my hat off to them. In saying that, I've heard it before where we've been involved in the startup ecosystem for many years now, and you always have the argument to say, who should be leading this? Is it the government? Is it the university education? Or is it the private sector? And I think Qatar's done it really well, and now everybody seems to be stepping up to the plate.
Yes. I think when it comes down to leading innovation, I think everyone has a part to play, and the argument or the discussions around who leads is kind of, everybody can lead, but what I always say to people is that the government should set the pace, or should set the playbook. They should write the playbook for this.
Yeah,
because it all starts with policy. It all starts with government decisions that, look, we want to create an enabling environment for organizations, for people. When I say organizations, big and small, for individuals, entrepreneurs, private sector participants, public sector participants. So the government should set the pace, or should create the enabling environment for innovation. And once that is done, then the leadership, of course, a private sector company can lead. Google is a private company, and they lead many aspects of innovation.
Of course.
In the US, yeah. General Electric is a private company, but they lead many aspects of innovation. So I would say anybody, individuals, entrepreneurs, individuals can also lead.
There's many people out there. Look at Ramzan El Naimi, where he's doing so much with his Innovation Cafe and all of those, and Sheikh Mansour, and the list is endless.
Exactly.
Hamid Al Hajri from Snoonu.
From Snoonu, yes.
So you've got all these individuals. So, but what I was trying to say, and we're saying about the policymakers with the government, but look at the success that they've just had with the Web Summit coming here.
Yeah.
That, and I suppose the biggest thing is you could do too much as well within the government, where you can flood the market and it's just not being utilized to its full potential.
True.
But the one thing that I see now is, as we said, you've got the education side of things. The universities were always involved, but now they're getting involved, and people are seeing that richness of the individuals that are going to become entrepreneurs, which is great to see. And then you've got the private sector also with the big companies, all of a sudden looking at it and going, hey, you know what, with these entrepreneurs, these innovators, they could actually solve problems for us. Why don't we create those platforms for them as well, and give them some problems that we're facing and come up with a solution?
Exactly. And again, that is one of the things I did while in London. I worked with Microsoft's accelerator. So you find out, that you're right. The big companies, when you talk about Microsoft, when you talk about Barclays Bank, that's in the UK. And I would guess even here in Qatar, I would hazard a guess that even people like Qatar Airways have programs that specifically deal with and work with startups and SMEs. Because one thing I learned in all these years of innovation and entrepreneurship is that the larger an organization is, most times the slower they are to change, because of all the bureaucracy, all the rules, all the regulations, all the people. Everybody wants, too many cooks spoil the broth.
Yeah.
So what many of them do is that they create a separate entity, an accelerator or an incubator, that deals specifically with innovation and challenges around the industry in which they operate in. So you're right. Yeah, it's something that a lot of large organizations do these days. Yeah.
I know Qatar Airways are coming out with, they're working with MADA. MADA's for the disabilities in that area. And I know that they're to the pre-flight, they're looking at ways that they can interact with children with autism. So they're looking at problems on that front, which is all credit for everybody involved, because they're coming up with solutions, and they're having these guys come in with innovative ideas, and they help them to develop, they help them to grow, which is really good. So they are all of a sudden you've got this ecosystem that's growing quite rapidly now, where people are putting so much time and effort in. And you're only going to see it grow over the next 5 years. It's going to be incredible.
Yes, I believe it is, because if we look at societies, countries, cities today, a lot of changes that are happening in these cities can be ascribed to a lot of the startups and SMEs that they have within the ecosystems. Of course, when you talk about an ecosystem, it's not just the startups. You need the big companies within that ecosystem to adopt the solutions of the startups. You need venture capitalists. You need the government participation. But by far, it is these small companies that are really driving the innovation within that system. So yes, I think in the next few years, Qatar, not just Qatar, societies around the world are going to be driven much further than they expect, based on the SMEs and startups operating within their sectors.
And everybody's got the ability to make a difference, right? So where could we improve our services? Where could we improve the advice that we give out?
Even as an individual, if you have the best idea in the world, you alone cannot make that happen. So I think as a company, as a consultant, as an individual, one of the things you would have to take into consideration is, how do you harness the skills and expertise in the network you have? So in other words, you have to be a matchmaker. You have to be a visionary. You have to be a planner. Because when you have Mr. A who has a very good idea, you have to understand what Mr. A needs to make that idea happen. So in other words, you have to understand the skills, the capabilities, the expertise of all the people in your network. You have to be able to introduce Mr. A to the right people within your network that will make that happen. You have to be able to midwife. You have to be able to harness. You have to be able to plan for Mr. A to ensure that whatever ideas he has will come to fruition. So as an individual, as a company, you need a network. You need to be able to plan. You need to be able to matchmake them. You need to be able to manage that relationship to an extent. So those are the kinds of things you need as a company or as an individual, as a consultant, to help entrepreneurs, to help innovators achieve and meet the goals that they have in mind, for them to succeed.
When we're teaching these guys how to do things, sometimes we underestimate. We try to do our best, and we try to do our best through experience and what we've been through. What are we missing out on? Are we missing out on points that we should be telling them from the very beginning?
Well, it's. I often say again that just like human beings, every company has its own ethos. Every company has its own way of working. Every company requires bespoke support. So when you are working with a company or with companies, what you're doing with company A is going to be different from what you're doing with company B, C, D, E. So I think another skill that we all need as mentors, consultants, organizations is trying to read the atmosphere, trying to read the situation. What does company A need to succeed?
Empathy, right?
Yeah, you need empathy, you need understanding, you need patience to be able to teach, coach, mentor.
I tend to do this. It's like one of the things, if you've got a desire, I'll go to the ends of the earth with you. Yeah. But you show me no desire, I'm not interested. I've got a life to lead, right? Yeah. But if you do want to show that work ethic, that desire, I'm all in.
That's it, yes.
I'm all in. Yeah. Are we trying to push this investment side of things too much at the moment? Why aren't we pushing the ability to get customers because you've got a product that could sell?
I think it's different for different people. And mind you, remember what I said earlier on, that the competition out there is fierce. Oh, it's really tough out there. So even when as a company you think, oh, I have a wonderful product, excellent product, it's going to solve all the problems in the world. Hang on a minute. You don't know what other people have. And you don't know whether company B, C, or D has something similar to what you have that is answering that is taking care of the problem of the customer. So even when you have an excellent product that you think is not moving or is not selling well, do you understand your competition? What are you doing different from them?
Yeah.
What is the cost of your product compared to what the cost of their product is? So again, trying to push particular products into the market, again, there's some science behind that. You have to study your market, understand your competitors. What are your price points? What is the product doing? Is it really meeting the need of the client, or is it putting a temporary bandage over an injury? So there are many things behind just pushing a product into the market. Yeah, before you even go down that path of product development, you need to understand the market in which you are operating. You need to carry out a detailed market assessment, market analysis to find out who else is in that market that I'm thinking of going into. Because some people already have the advantage of being the product on ground. And if you want to beat them, or if you want to compete with them at their own game, you have to be doing something that is noticeably different from what they are doing. You have to do something that is definitely going to make things easier for the customer.
And I suppose it's I feel like a broken record sometimes, because you're telling the people they want to rush off and get their branding done. Yeah. They want to get their image done. And I understand. I've been there. But there's much more important things to do before you get to that stage. There's much more things that you need to come to terms with. One that I would say is just making sure that you get your business in order, so that your business is like a well-managed machine. That you've got all the data, you've got everything, you've got your policies, procedures, you've got your price points, you've got your break even, you've got your feasibility study, you've got all of those things in place. You must have seen this so many times where people do get the money and they burn through it, or they kind of, just because I see so many people thinking just because they've got the investment now, answer to all the prayers. You must have experiences that it's just the beginning.
I've seen lots of that, lots and lots of it, where the plans people have for their businesses are not detailed or concise enough. Exactly what you said. They don't have business plans. They don't have business goals and business visions or business objectives. And for some reason or the other, they've been quite lucky in what they've done. So yes, it seems like they are succeeding. It seems like they have a product that everybody on the market wants. So yes, they get some investment and they burn through it just like that, because they didn't really plan for that investment. And once you have £1 million, £1.5 million, £2 million in your hands, you then decide, oh, okay, this is very good, let's do that. This is very good, let's do that. But you haven't planned carefully for those things. So yes, I have seen those things happen a lot of times. And it's not always very good for the founders. I mean, that's why you find out that many companies that are doing well, seemingly doing well, they get some investment, and in 2 or 3 years they've gone bust.
In my opinion, I'm scared that our company's doing really well. Luckily, we've raised our finance for our clients.
Yes.
We do a good job. They pay us. It's great money, right? But I've always been scared about taking other people's money, because my biggest worry is, oh my God, how am I going to pay it back? How am I gonna? And I'm gonna give so much away, and it's like scared.
Yeah, it's scary for a lot of people. But then that's why you need to plan.
You've got
well.
Oh God, you've
very
got to.
well. Number one, apart from planning, you need to have some very good mentors, people who will mentor your business in that process of scaling. You need to have very good staff. Sometimes not everybody you need.
Yeah.
You need to have a lean staff.
Yeah.
You don't just employ willy-nilly. Oh, I need this, employ that person and put them on full-time salaries with excellent benefits. So that process of growing, that process of scaling, especially with other people's money, needs to be managed very carefully. Most times, tell the investor, sir, I don't just want your money. I want you and your money.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's one of the best ways to acquire investment. Don't just give me the money. I want you or some of your staff to come along with that money, so that we can both discuss and work through how that money is being spent.
So in saying all of this, I don't want to be on a downer there, because it's not being a downer, but I do want to get over that you've got to be realistic with these startups. There's a magnificent wave, I think, that's starting to build here, but what you've got to be as a startup is you're going to have to be very competitive here, because it's going to be a marketplace that is going to have so much competition. I'm seeing it already. There's going to be so many great minds coming to take the advantages that Qatar has.
Definitely.
And you better be on top of your game, because if you're not, it will be ruthless, because there'll have so much to choose from.
Definitely. Again, in the work I did while I spent all my 20-something years in the UK, one thing I realized again is that innovation is no longer local. It's now international. So you find out that even the smallest Latvian company, even the smallest French, Austrian SME is operational somewhere in the remotest part of Asia.
Yeah.
Even the smallest American startup is located somewhere in Oman. Even the smallest British startup is somewhere here in Qatar. So yeah, you're right. Innovation is now global. There are no boundaries anymore. Everybody is everywhere. So even while we are trying to harness and to grow the Qatari or the GCC or the Middle Eastern innovation companies, we have to be aware that competition is no longer the guy next door. Competition is now the guy in New York somewhere for a Qatari company. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. It's something that we have to consider.
But that's a great thing. Embrace that, because you got the opportunity of being global. It's like you've got to keep on keeping that momentum going forward.
No time.
There's no time. You've got to keep on moving on to the next thing, but you've got to take the pleasure in that, and you've got to keep on thinking to yourself. As a chef, we used to have the saying, "You're only as good as your last meal."
Yeah.
I could have done 10,000 meals, okay, and they could have been all great, but unfortunately, that last meal, and you let yourself down, it's a disaster, because that's the one that's going to be the one that they remember. And you have to consider that people say that here in Qatar, it's just a small kind of, there's not many people here, 3 million. It's like, but stop looking at that level. Look at it and look at the world, because you've got to, because that's the opportunity that you've got in front of you. And only you, if you're not looking at it, you can obviously grow, because you're only looking in a small marketplace. You've got to be seeing how you can capitalize on that marketplace to then be the leapfrog, to the leaping ground to go on to bigger and better things.
Oh, definitely, yes. And I think myself, many years ago, I was also guilty of that kind of thinking that, it's such a small country, or this is such a small country, or that is such a small country, what can they do? But in one of the recent articles I just published on LinkedIn, I realized that a country like Estonia, has only 1 point something million people, and they have so many unicorns out of that country. So many unicorns, both transfer wise, and it's only a country of 1 point something million. Singapore is a small country. I don't know how many their population is, but there may be 5 million, maybe. They are also well known for their innovation ecosystem and all the work they are doing. So yes, there are many countries with small populations that are very powerful regarding innovation, because they focus heavily on education, number one. All the deep sciences and technologies, AI, machine learning, material sciences, they focus on those things, and they become, that small population, they become experts at those things, and begin to, generate intellectual property, generate innovation, new products and services. So Qatar, yes, has a small population, but they can do it.
But if you look at places like Doha University,
yes,
I know that Doha Technology, kind of whatever it's called, but it's Doha University, right?
Yeah.
When you look at their engineering department and other departments within that faculty, they've got, I don't know how many patents that's out there. They've got some huge talent. And you look at the other universities around, the medical one, Wells Cornell, you look at those, you've got these professors, but this is where I think that Qatar is it's just going to kind of keep on growing, is that these guys have got a real business idea, but they haven't got the entrepreneur side of things.
Yes,
they're professors. They're educated. They're
educators. Yeah,
yeah, and they don't know the business side. And that's where I see this whole thing just kind of getting bigger and bigger. I did a panel at the Web Summit with Snunu. We finished the panel. This guy comes up. He says, I'm from Estonia. He said, so he said, we're doing wonders. He said, but Qatar is going to be the next Estonia.
Yeah. Yes.
And he just looked up and he said, I've found this whole week incredible. He said, but there's something here that's building really nicely, and we know because we were part of that growth in Estonia.
Yeah.
So there's wonderful things, and they're going in the right direction, and more people are going to get involved.
Yes.
And Qatar is definitely a place to come and try that. You've got to give it a try.
Yes, definitely. And I like I said, even before I came here, I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of studying the ecosystem. And before I came here, I had actually registered for conferences already. I hadn't arrived, but I had registered for various conferences. So yes, I see the eagerness. I see the drive with which the whole country is trying to embed that attitude of innovation in its citizens. and all the expats, of course, not just the citizens, but the expats. Yes, you spoke of the university. I'm sure you've noticed also, which I did, that Qatar has some very deep and resourceful relationships with lots of foreign universities. You talked of Weill Cornell. They are there. There's Georgetown University.
Yeah.
There is Northwestern University. They are all over the place. So yes, they're actually benefiting from the skills and expertise of all these foreign universities who send people here to come and start out programs and run those programs. So definitely they are building up that ecosystem where the universities are now rich in lots of knowledge. Universities are rich in intellectual property that needs to be commercialized. And that's one of the things that the KTP does, which they have already launched. The KTP helps startups and SMEs commercialize the knowledge from universities.
I think it's perfect. I really do, and I think that that's such a smart idea. We're doing Soutien Ventures. How excited are you about that?
Again, early stages, but again, I think, like we've said earlier on, with what we see on the horizon, I think there will be the need for a lot of organizations that have the skills and the knowledge to act as midwives to help innovation happen. Soutien Group, Soutien Ventures is headed in that direction. I think what the company needs to do now is continue networking, meeting the right people, and continue showing what you can do in terms of what skills, what knowledge, what expertise do you have in-house, what experience do you have, and continue helping small companies or even large companies, continue helping them achieve what they want to achieve. And sooner rather than later, you will find out that once the innovation ecosystem explodes, you will find out that you are ready to now take responsibility.
The love of what we do, and we don't talk very much about our own companies on our podcast, but I'm really proud of Soutien because we've got elements of our business that we're taking care of big companies, and I mean big companies that are turning over nearly 19 billion. Okay, and we've got companies that we're establishing here in Qatar and high net worth value clients, individuals. So we're on that big scale, and they've got a real interest coming into the Qatari market. But we've also got the one where we're going to talk with the youth, where they've got an ambition and they've got a desire. And that's where I see our skills. That's where I see our development going forward, because we've been learning all of this for the best part of our lives. And now we're going to put it into place where we can be that midwife. We can be that. I want to be the football manager that knows how to deal with individuals where you're going to put your arm around them, or you're going to have to give them a bit of a rift in, right? You're going to kind of... you not talk to them for a day or so because they've kind of not done what they should have done, and they're not listening. But these are all the things that you're going to learn along the way, and it's all about man management. And I think that's what I feel that we've got plenty of, and I look forward to the future. And it's really nice, as you said before, in the teamwork. It's really nice to have people around you that you know that they've got those skill sets, and they all bring something to the table, and I'm really excited about that one. But I've been fascinated, and we're going to do this podcast on a regular basis now. So we're going to be touching on different subjects, different things that we can discuss. We can kind of open those doors and open their ears to some of the things. Don't run away from these things. You're never going to run away from them, because they're always going to be on your shoulder. Every time you look over, they're going to be there again. So we need to kind of face those, and we need to face them in the best possible way. And we're going to help you, guide you through those times where things can get a little bit tough. And lonely.
I often say, the life of an entrepreneur is a lonely one. Because many of the entrepreneurs had the ideas, they have the vision for whatever products they have, they've thought about, and they end up being quite close to those products, and they alone most times feel the pain if those products are not as successful as they want. So yeah, it's a lonely journey, and that's where mentorship, that's where coaching, and more importantly, something I always say again is that entrepreneurs and innovators need to find a local community.
Oh, they got to.
Oh, they have to find that local community where they can feel at home.
Feel at home and find value.
And find value, especially with other entrepreneurs like themselves. They don't have to be in the same industry. But an entrepreneur, a fintech innovator or entrepreneur, meeting a medtech innovator or entrepreneur, they will speak the same language. Oh, I need funding for this. How do I scale my business? Where do I find the right expertise? They might be different. They might need different expertise or experts, but they will feel each other's pain. So that's what I mean by everyone needs to find a community where they can belong.
And that is really, really important, because it's a lonely life if you're an entrepreneur, or it can be. Depends on how big you build that team. I remember being in door to door, and we were all on commission only. That's all we were on. You didn't sell, you didn't get paid. And if you didn't have any money in your pocket and trying to find a way back half an hour from the field, and that can be 30, 40 miles away from where you were selling. Literally, those were the tough areas. You needed to learn quick. And the only way you can learn quick is by being with people that's done it already.
Done it before,
And you had to listen to them, because if you didn't listen to them, you were not going to be in that business for long. And some of the biggest, I've seen some people make some serious businesses out of that. So that's that. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you, Steve.
I am going to split it all around, and I'm going to say to you guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did personally. We didn't know what we were going to do today. We just wanted to get in front of the microphones, and actually it's one of those that I'm really, really proud of, because we could talk from our position and our knowledge and experience. And what I think with it's going to help so many different people to just kind of, and it's not going to tell them anything. It's not going to tell you anything. In most of the cases, it's just going to let you know that you're on the right direction. It's going to let you know that it's okay to feel what you're feeling, because everybody goes through it and you're not alone. All you've got to do is find that way to get through. And that's the most important thing. We've all got it in us. You've got it in you. You've just got to make it work for yourself. Okay? Surround yourself by good people. Never be the sharpest knife in the drawer or the biggest brain in that room. You always have people around you in that team that are much better than you. Never be intimidated by that. You lead by example, and you show the way constantly, and you'll get those people following you because you'll give them their desire. Anyway, thank you so much for listening this week. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Steve.
One of many.
One of many, yes.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.